Courage in crisis. This is our fourth week, just taking this text from the words of King David. And David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. This happened in the city of Ziklag, a city that he had been given by King Achish of Gath. And there his family was, wife, children, the wife and children of the men who served under him. They'd gone off to battle, come back, find that their family had been kidnapped, all of the wives, all the children, city burned to the ground. Now, you have to admit, that's pretty low, and you consider that to be a crisis. Here David was facing it, and he said those words, and David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. But you see, these series of events in his life brought him to that point. And I've said that this defines him. Because even though it was a very, very low time, he was able to rise above it because of things that happened in his life. The experiences, his time of praise and worship before God and building his relationship with God, and the circumstances that God had taken him through to help him to develop, to be a man who gave himself over to the Spirit of God to help him in this time of crisis. And that's the point that I have been making throughout these teachings. Yes, we have these times of darkness in our lives. We have these times of crisis in our lives. And the ability to be able to deal with them and to overcome those times of crisis is very, very important in our lives as we live our daily lives. And along the way, there are some principles that David experienced that I believe carries over into our lives today. And one of them was, we talked about last week, about how that when he had the opportunity to kill Saul, he repented and did not do it because he said, I will not touch God's anointed. And I think that's a very important principle as we live our lives, to realize that God establishes the leadership. And he'll take them down or he'll build them up according to his will and his desire. That's not on our hands to do. Otherwise, then we would have blood on our hands. And David realized that he would have blood on his hands and it would not go well for him in the future. And then there was another encounter that took place. This is right after the time that David realized that Saul was out to kill him. And at first, he told this to Jonathan, Saul's son. And Jonathan said, oh, no, the king loves you. But Jonathan did some investigating, and when he finally confronted his dad made it very, very clear that he was going to kill this son of Jesse, as he described him. And so Jonathan gave that word to David, and David fled. And when he fled, he came to the place where Abiathar the priest was. And by this time he was hungry, and those who were with him were hungry. And he said to Abiathar, he said, is there some bread for us to eat? And Abiathar said, no, the only bread that we have is the shewbread that's been dedicated to the Lord. And David said, give that to us to eat. And with that, he broke tradition. And that's what we'll talk about through the rest of this week. This is Pastor Jack King with the gospel on the radio broadcast.